Welcome to the Miracle Work One class today. Thank you that you're here, that you showed up, and that was the only requirement. Like I said also in the introduction on the website, it's like, yeah, showing up is the only requirement. You don't have to study this well, you don't have to know everything already, or it really doesn't matter. No, it's like you chose to be here, to be present here together with us. And that's so great. That's so wonderful to see that happen, and that that you get excited of being here. That's really lovely. So thank you for that. And I want to start off with reading some of the 20-minute book, just because it's so lovely to read, and it's so helpful to take that in. So that's why that came up for me to do that with you. All right, so these are the lessons, the last 4 of the first 50 lessons, like the review of the first 50 lessons. God is the strength in which I trust. It is not my own strength through which I forgive. It is through the strength of God in me, which I am remembering as I forgive. As I begin to see, I recognize his reflection on earth. I forgive all things because I feel the stirring of his strength in me, and I begin to remember the love I chose to forget, but which has not forgotten me. There is nothing to fear. How safe the world will look to me when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything I see will lean toward me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. What could there be to fear in a world that I have forgiven and that has forgiven me? God's voice speaks to me all through the day. There is not a moment in which God's voice ceases to call on my forgiveness to save me. There's not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. I'm walking steadily on toward truth. There's nowhere else I can go, because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son. I am sustained by the love of God. I'm sustained by his love. As I open my eyes, his love lights up for me to see. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless. And as I look upon the world with the vision he has given me, I remember that I am his son. I am sustained by the love of God. So this is an introduction to today's class, and which is a beautiful introduction. It's like, oh yes, there's nothing to fear, and yes, I'm surrounded by the love of God. So everything is in place. That is what I hear now. That's amazing, because my day didn't really look like that, or whatever happened just before was like not in synchronicity with that. Or maybe you had a wonderful day already, or you just started your day in a very glorious and bright way. That is lovely. That's lovely to hear that. That's fine too, of course. So it is, whatever can help us to remember that everything is in place, that that we literally share truth together in the recognition of our oneness with each other. We can remember that together. That's amazing. So that's really the purpose of coming together today. And so I just send out a little booklet to the participants here, the ones that are here in class. And it says Atonement as a lesson in sharing. So it's from chapter 9 of the Urtext. Atonement as a lesson in sharing. And it is it's a really beautiful section of the Urtext. And I picked it because it spoke to me in a special way, in the sense of We forgot, it says the first line, I'll read it to you because it's so pretty amazing. Atonement is for all because it is the way to undo the belief that anything is for you alone. Like nothing is for you alone. No, everything is shared. So in that everything is shared is like, no, we give truth to one another. We share that truth with one another. We recognize that truth. And in that recognition of truth, we start to communicate immediately. We start to come into communion together. Then how could there be attack when that is occurring? So that means then also that when you feel that you want to correct someone or you want to attack someone, if you want, and then something went wrong, and you completely miss it. You completely miss it because you think there is something separate from everything that is. And that's just, see, that is not the way that atonement works. So atonement is not a threat at all, so this is this class is a bit, what is atonement then? It is really the undoing of your ego-based thinking, the undoing of the attacks or the patterns of attack that you're used to and not even be aware of, maybe. So the atonement then is really to let that correction take place, and not that you know how to correct that, but see, there's a plan, and that is working you. And that plan is a plan of atonement, a plan of salvation. Literally for you to become aware that everything is shared and nothing is only for you. It's like, no, the correction is shared too. Like we put our joy in that, and that is taking place in us. And when you start being on this path, when you start going through changes yourself, you see that it doesn't feel that way immediately. But when you start to open up to your brother, you see that they even recognize where you are at in your process of undoing. And like there's no mystery in it whatsoever. It is very obvious what kind of process you're going through. And that's why it's really nice, but you have to listen with the right ears, so to speak. So if I still believe in my perception and I work from there, so to speak, I react from that, then there will never be an atonement. So that's the thing that we're going to learn, and in this process of undoing, is not to do that. And also to really realize that you don't have to do that you don't have to attack anyone, because you are like in no means that you don't have to defend yourself in the process, because you're not being attacked. Only by your own ideas about yourself or your own thoughts about your brother. That's why you feel threatened, or, so in the undoing process of all of this, it is literally calming down. It's almost like this little snowman in water that you can shake around, that you maybe had as a kid. You shake it around and you see just a big blur, and there must be a snowman in there somewhere, but you don't even see that. And as soon as everything starts to come down, suddenly the picture becomes clear. Well, this is really how it is with you too, in looking at your brother. See, but then the snowman is then just a snowman. When we're talking about you and me, like we share one truth together, then you see that, no, at the moment that it becomes clear to you that with who you actually deal, then you see also that you start to communicate immediately, and that a lot, like suddenly there's love that you can feel, and there's a connectedness and fulfillment that's confirmed to you. You see, oh my God, how beautiful it is. Oh, how did I not see that? I cannot believe it. So it's more like that then. So that's why the atonement is not a threat at all. It's just an invitation for you to come to realize that literally your brother is waiting for you to do that. And it doesn't look like that, and it doesn't feel like that, and it doesn't seem like that. When you listen to him on the phone, it doesn't hear like that either. And still you're invited to go beyond your perception and leave that for what it is, because that is not what it is. It was just like an old belief that your perception tells you what is going on, and that is not the case. So that is like a summary of what we're actually looking at today in this section, Atonement as a Lesson in Sharing. Even the title is very nice, isn't it? It's like it's a lesson in sharing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So what do you actually mean by that? Because I do everything on my own, and I don't need that much of my neighbors, or I don't need anything actually. I'll take care of myself. And so what is this lesson in sharing then? And that's a good question. It really is a good question, because it is the start of a discovery, like the start of a discovery of what your brother actually means for you, and what the recognition of your true oneness is with your brother. That is quite amazing. Like, you have no idea what that can entail. Otherwise, you would immediately choose for it. You would just let yourself be undone. So that's always with the process here, and with the undoing, it is like you choose for the path, and yes, you want enlightenment and you want to be completely undone, but you also want to hold on to the things that you're really valuing, whether you know it or not, whether you are aware of it or not. So this process of undoing is quite specific for you. It's like, no, this goes to, like, this is in relationship with all situations. This is in relationship with making no exceptions whatsoever in all of this. There's not a person that is exempt from this. No, you are completely including everyone into this. Only then you will see that there's a sharing possible. So deny one brother to come to you, or deny one person, basically, the entrance to heaven. And what happens is that it's like you deny one person entrance to heaven and you lose it yourself. That is what is so amazing. That makes it totally impossible everywhere. So one exception held apart from true perception makes its accomplishments anywhere impossible. That's literally from the Course. Like, that is the thing that's like the sword of Damocles above your head. So it's like, you want to see with vision, yes, and you want to hold on to your grudges, forget it. It's not going to work. So you don't want to do that anymore. Okay, good. That's great. That's great. So we make some progress already. So I really love that. So I really love it also that we can even look at this, and that we see, this is my real discovery with the Urtext too, by reading it or making recordings with the reading. It is, you discover, oh my God, there's so much instruction, and it's such a delight to read it, but also to listen to it again and again, seeing that it just makes you happy for no reason whatsoever. That is what I love about these podcasts that we send out and that we make. It's like, it's just, it bubbles up. Suddenly it's like, oh my God, it's so good. I'm so happy that I did this. So great to hear this. It's the same with this. So this class is a possibility for that too, of course. If it's not making you happy, you might as well not follow it. But hey, open yourself for this and see that it works through you, that it literally works you. It stirs something up in you. That is so beautiful. So I'm really happy that you're here and take time, that you come to this and listen to it and let yourself be inspired. Not as much by what I say, but by the light that is available. You know, there's a direct light communication possible. That is actually your personal, individual inspiration for coming to realize that you're sharing this with your brother. And in that sharing is your communication, is your recognition, and is the, say, the accomplishment of recognizing our true source together. It's together. It's not alone. You're not doing this on your little, in your little room all by yourself and thinking that something will change. No, why not share it with your brother? Why not open yourself up to come in direct communication with God, with your brother? In that, you know, like a triangular relationship with God. You recognize it in yourself. It communicates immediately also with your brother. So you have an opportunity to come into a holy instant together, shared, a win-win situation, a happy situation. Nobody loses anything. There's no sacrifice being asked. There's not much effort being asked of you at all. And it's freely given. And yeah, just invite you to share it more and more and open yourself up to it more and more. So yeah, that is the frequency that we're entering into, is then by repeating this, by practicing this, by coming together and really letting this affect us, you see that the whole paradigm is shifting for us, that suddenly things become possible that we didn't even know of before. Suddenly there are possibilities in your daily life that you didn't see coming, and they're totally helpful to you. You know, this is what is happening. And if you say like, well, I don't see that and it's not happening in my life, so wait just a moment longer. Just be patient with yourself. You will see it for sure. So just come back to this. Don't let yourself be discouraged. Keep picking up the book. Keep reading. Read a line. Listen to a little this or that, a little podcast or a little video. Just use what is available. Or sit with yourself for a moment and have a little conversation with Jesus or with God. You know? Absolutely. So you activate, it's being activated in your mind. And in that, everything starts to shift. You know, what seemed to be dark suddenly is not dark anymore. So that is so different. So I will start sharing some of the ideas that are in this. And it would be really good if you feel like it to read it again and go through it, because there's a lot in there. Very basic, very fundamental, but very helpful. That's what I see when I read it. So this is what I shared with you already. Atonement is for all because it is the way to undo the belief that anything is for you alone. To forgive is to overlook. So this is chapter 9, section C, the first paragraph. I really don't know on what page it is though, but it's in the reader that I sent to you. Atonement is for all because it is the way to undo the belief that anything is for you alone. So yeah, let that undoing take place. You know, it's like, yeah, this is I would love that to happen, that to recognize that nothing is for me alone. To forgive is to overlook. Look then beyond error and do not let your perception rest upon it, for you will believe what your perception holds. To forgive is to overlook. Look then beyond the error and do not let your perception rest upon it, for you will believe what your perception holds. So a couple of lines further. Oh, here's another one. I don't want to skip this either. Accept as true only what your brother is, if you would know yourself. Accept as true only what your brother is, if you would know yourself. Perceive what he is not, and you cannot know what you are, because you see him falsely. See, nothing is for you alone. You can think of yourself that your holiness itself, and that is really great. You know, that's really wonderful because you are holy. But if you don't include your brother into that, so if you cannot see that your brother is just as holy as you are, then you miss something, and you will feel that too. It will not be complete. So that's basically what this says. Accept as true only what your brother is, if you would know yourself. Perceive what he is not, and you cannot know what you are, because you see him falsely. Remember always that your identity is shared. Another one of sharing. Your identity is shared, and that its sharing is its reality. Remember always that your identity is shared, and that its sharing is its reality. Wow. See, like, how do you do that? You know, you cannot figure it out with your mind. How am I supposed to do that? But you know what it says. So that's enough. You don't have to know more, so to speak. Wow. Do not let any belief. Oh, wait, no, I cannot skip that. Sorry, we have to start somewhere else. What has no effect does not exist. And to the Holy Spirit, the effects of error are totally non-existent. By steadily and consistently canceling out all its effects everywhere and in all respects, he teaches that the ego does not exist and proves it. By steadily and consistently canceling out all its effects everywhere and in all respects, he teaches that the ego does not exist and proves it. See, that's good to read too, because it is like, this is a total program you're in, so to speak. There's no exception to it. Like, there's not a day in which you make an exception and it still works. No, this is a total program. So you are coming to the place, you're coming into the mindset, so to speak. You literally come into accepting this wholeness in you, this totality. You're going to accept that in order for it to see it for what it is and to see it truly. That's why there's no gray area. That's why there are no exceptions. That's why the ego really doesn't like it, because it loves exceptions, you know? And your ego is nothing more than your ideas about yourself, and your ideas about God, and your ideas about everything that you think is the way that you see it. Everything based on your perception. That is what the ego is. So it's like, yeah, that's you as a human being. That's you in your human nature, having ideas about everything and judging your brother and doing all kinds of stuff, so to speak. So this course really helps you to let all of that be used constructively instead of for attack. And that's why it is a total program, because there cannot be one brother exempt from this. Like, there can be made no exception in all of this. And that's why it's like totally loving, complete acceptance, no attack, like no, complete sharing. That's where the healing is. You know, that's where the healing is. That's where the miracle happens. When you see that there's no exception, and that your brother is yourself, like you literally love your brother as yourself, but he is also yourself. There's no separation from him. in the recognition of your oneness, looking back at your history, like looking back with your timeline, um, so way of thinking, your timeline concepts, it seems like somebody really was guilty and something happened that wasn't really nice and all of that. So here in the beginning, it says like, overlook that. It doesn't mean that you, yeah, okay, you acknowledge, yes, it happened. And I forgive, because I want to be free of that. I forgive because I want to see him truly as he is. And the past is over. It cannot really touch me anymore unless I keep bringing it back into this present moment. So if I allow this moment to be completely new, I can also see my brother for who he is, and see that the confirmation in the communication, suddenly you see that you're communicating with him, and actually it's like, oh my God, what did I miss? I've missed this. I really thought he was guilty of something. No, you literally break down in that. And you know that feeling so well, to give up your ideas about who your brother is, and see how well that works if you step back out of it and see him literally change in front of your eyes, and not seeing him anymore through eyes that want to attack him, but seeing him for who he is, like, and sharing love with him. Okay, so we're talking here about Holy Spirit. Following his teaching in forgiveness, then, because forgiveness is his function and he knows how to fulfill it perfectly. Okay, so here's your guide. He knows what forgiveness is, it's his function, and he knows how to fulfill it perfectly. That is what we meant when we once said that miracles are natural, and when they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Miracles are merely the sign of your willingness to follow his plan of salvation, in recognition of the fact that you do not know what it is. Okay. Miracles are merely the sign of your willingness to follow his plan of salvation. Miracles are merely the willingness, your willingness to follow his plan of salvation. See, and that sounds really great. Yes, I would love to follow his plan for salvation, but then in recognition of the fact that you do not know what it is. Sorry, no, you don't know what it is. Like, I always love this. Like, oh, wah, wah, wah. It's not, it's not gonna fly. So that is so great, isn't it? That is so great. So you don't, like, you have to give up your plan for salvation is basically the invitation. Like, you have to give up your plan of salvation. You think that you know what's the best for you, but that's not really what works. Or you think you know what's the best to say to make it good with your relationship or with your friendship or with your brother. You think that you know how to deal with it in order to come into the total freedom with him or her. And that's not the case. So you have to give that up. You have to say, like, okay, yes, I want to accept the Holy Spirit's plan for salvation because, and I literally declare, because I don't know what it is. I don't know what makes me happy. I don't know what would dissolve this problem that I have in front of me, or I don't know how to dissolve this tension with this person or this specific situation that I'm in. I don't know how to dissolve that, but there's a perfect plan. So I don't need to know that, but I also don't have to try anymore to do that. So that's really a declaration that you make for yourself. You know, that's, yeah, you will have to do that. Okay, to make it sure that you understand what is meant here, his work is not your function. And unless you accept this, you cannot learn what your function is. His work is not your function. And unless you accept this, you cannot learn what your function is. That sounds really good too. So you don't know, his work is not your function. So you stay out of it. Step back. That's why we say step back. When you're in a situation that you don't know how to deal with, step back out of it. Like, okay, I don't know how to respond to any of this. I will just follow the guidance that I'm getting, because I have no idea how to respond to this. What would be the best for everyone involved? I have no idea. And I don't need to know because it's not my function. So I step back out of it and let the light or the Holy Spirit fulfill his function, because he knows what he's dealing with. He knows how this works. You don't know, and you don't have to know. You will be shown what to do exactly told what to do. So that's really wonderful. But it is practicing. Yeah, you have to practice this. So if you don't have any idea what's going on, if you have no idea what your function is, it says in 8C8, if one has no idea what is happening, how appropriately can you expect him to react? But you might still ask yourself, regardless of how you can account for the reactions, whether they place the ego in a very sound position as a guide for yours. If one has no idea what is happening, so why would you want to follow that and expect him to react in the right way? There's no way that you can do that. But you're still listening to him. You're still listening to your human ideas. You know, you're still listening to that. That's why this is being said. It's like, well, you follow guidance of one who doesn't know anything. And that is, say, your thoughts about yourself. You follow your thoughts about yourself when you really think that you know what's going on and how to respond to it. So yeah, if you cannot oversee the situation, how do you know what to do? No, you don't know. You have a part to play in the atonement. You have a part to play in the atonement, in the undoing. But the plan of atonement, the plan of your undoing, is beyond you. You do not know how to overlook errors, or you would not make them. Ooh. You do not know how to overlook errors, or you would not make them. Well, sometimes I know how to overlook, I know how not to make errors, and I see others do it. So is that different then? Or what is that all about? So when I see my brother making a mistake, I can gently forgive him and say like, well, that's just a mistake. Who cares? And it's like, no, actually, I'm the one making that mistake at the same time. Like, no, that if I see error in anything, the source of it is right here. So that is just good to know. You know, it's like, no, there's nothing that needs to be corrected. We talked about this the other day too. It's like, as long as you think that you have to correct your brother, you have a problem. You know, you have a problem because you think that there's something to correct, and you're actually the one perceiving that, no one else. So that's where that starts, and that's where it can be corrected too. But it has to come into your awareness even that you're doing it. So that's why it's good to come together and read this kind of, say, this beautiful instruction. Oh yeah, this is another nice one. So it's not very ego flattering today. Um, the plan is not yours. The plan for atonement is not yours because of your limited ideas about what you are. But this limitation is where all errors arise. The way to undo them is therefore not of you, but for you. See, we're really getting to the bottom of this here. The plan is not yours because your limited ideas about yourself. You have limited ideas about yourself. That's why it's not going to work. But this limitation is where all the errors arise. So that's not going to be very helpful for you. You have limited ideas because your ideas are all based on time and on space and on, say, body identification and on limited ideas about what your function is and who you really are. So that is, imagine that you could see who you really are. You would not even think about thinking it yourself. You want, see, that's the other part actually that's being like, that's what's being shown too. Imagine that you could see your brother who he is. You would not even think about correcting him because, there's nothing to correct him of. He's, you see him in a perfect shining light, feeling the connection with him at the same time, seeing that your father is in like with you, in direct communication with you, entering together in a state of heaven, so to speak. So what would you correct? What would you add to that? Nothing. It's impossible. You would not even think about it. You would not be able to think about it. So that's good to realize too. It's a bit extreme if I say it like this, but it's actually the reality of the situation. So nothing is alone. Nothing is alone. It's not that you are wholly alone. No, your brother is holy too. And then that is what you're going to practice, and that is what you're going to see, and that's what's going to be revealed to you. And it can happen right now. Why not? Because the love we share is here now. We don't have to wait till something is going to happen or it will come down on us or something. No, I'm talking about this is happening right now. It's here. It is not another moment. No, there is nothing else going on but this direct communication. It's like I'm sustained by the love of God, and that is happening right now. It's not some other time. And there is nothing to fear. I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to hold any ideas about my brother, except that I'm completely loving him and that he's my brother in light and that we share a common purpose and that we share the same source. So that's really good to realize and to start your day with. And like, oh, wait a minute, yeah. So the figures that I'm going to meet today, the persons that I'm going to meet today, they are actually confirming my true identity if I let them. If I see something else, like I'm literally denying the miracle to happen. So I'm not going to do that today. So today I will devote to 2 miracles to literally come into the communication with my brother, sharing our purpose as one, seeing that that actually is the only thing that's going on. The rest does really not exist. So then the screaming kids of your neighbor suddenly become like, oh my God, it's so great to see all this passion happening. Like there's so much passion, and everyone is so much alive. I love to join with that. It's not, yeah, uncomfortable anymore. No, I allow it to connect with me. And one thing for sure, and that's what you recognize now too, you need help with that. You literally need help with that. There's no way that you could do this by yourself because you're so in your thought system, you're so believing what you think and see So that's why you need help from out of this frame of reference. Forgiveness through the Holy Spirit lies simply in looking beyond error from the beginning. This is C6. Looking beyond error from the beginning and thus keeping it unreal. For, wait a minute, I skipped the page. Oh, here it is. I mixed these up. All right. Forgiveness through the Holy Spirit lies simply in looking beyond error from the beginning and thus keeping it unreal for you. Do not let any belief in its realness enter your minds at all, or you will also believe that you must undo what you have made in order to be forgiven. No, what has no effect does not exist. And to the Holy Spirit, the effects of error are totally non-existent. Okay, so we go to the last part of this, and that is the second coming, because we all heard about the second coming of Christ, you know? Do not fear the last judgment, but welcome it, and do not wait for the ego's time, for the ego's time is borrowed from your eternity. Okay, this is really great. Do not fear the last judgment, but welcome it, and do not wait, for the ego's time is borrowed from your eternity. So that's good to know too. It's like the ego's time, like when I keep living as a human being, it's like in my limited perspective of myself, I actually miss time in eternity. It's like not that there's any time that you miss, but it's more like, why would you want to give that time to the ego mind, to your human experience mind? Why would you want to give that to that? While you know that you can be completely in communication with your brother, sharing love, the love that you are. So the second coming, then. This is the second coming, which was made for you, as the first was created. The second coming is merely the return of sense. Can this possibly be fearful? What can be fearful but fantasy? And no one turns to fantasy unless he despairs of satisfaction in reality. But it is certain that he will never find satisfaction in fantasy, so that his only hope is to change his mind about reality. Only if the decision that reality is fearful is wrong, can God be right. And I assure you that God is right. Okay, and here's the conclusion. Be glad then that you have been wrong, but this was only because you did not know who you were. So now it's really wrapping up pretty quickly. And that is like you were wrong, but you didn't know who you were. So that's why this was happening. For a moment, you forgot who you are. And that's where this all happened in. And so that's okay. It didn't have any consequences because like nobody even noticed. Once you come into the realization, once you come into the direct communication, the shared communication, and you decide to give up your, say, ego fantasy and take time to enter into reality, spend your day in that, so to speak, or take that with you wherever you go, then you see that that is, of course, what was available for you all the time. So that is what's being given here. That's what's being reminded of here. So that's what I love to share with you. Like, this is our opportunity. Yeah, let's say, put away our toys. Let's put away our toys of entertaining ourselves with our ideas, our limited ideas, and with our judgments, and with our ideas about a brother. Let's just not waste any more time in doing so. See, and then it's what I said in the beginning too. It's like when you start remembering this more and more, like through your day, suddenly you see that it lifts everything. Suddenly the light literally starts to shine in your dream, and things that were dark before just light up like that. You never saw them before. Like, you thought this brother was really someone who was hurting you, but by changing your mind and allowing this change to occur for you, you see him in a whole different light. And that was what you wanted to see all along. So that is so great. So now, to bring it back to where we started, I will read the last 4 reviews of the lessons, of the first 50 lessons, and see, because they sound different now. I know that for sure. God is the strength in which I trust. It is not my own strength through which I forgive. It is through the strength of God in me, which I'm remembering as I forgive. As I begin to see, I recognize his reflection on earth. I forgive all things because I feel the stirring of his strength in me. And I begin to remember the love I chose to forget, but which has not forgotten me. There's nothing to fear. How safe the world will look to me when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything I see will lean toward me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. What could there be to fear in a world that I have forgiven and that has forgiven me? God's voice speaks to me all through the day. There is not a moment in which God's voice ceases to call on my forgiveness to save me. There is not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. I am walking steadily on toward truth. There's nowhere else I can go because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son. Oh, wait a minute. He is the only voice, just that you know. Yeah, you got that right. The only voice. So there's nowhere else I can go because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son. I am sustained by the love of God. As I listen to God's voice, I'm sustained by his love. As I open my eyes, his love lights up the world for me to see. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless. And as I look upon the world with the vision he has given me, I remember that I am his son. And I share that with my brother. Like, yeah, I remember that I am his son in the recognition of our shared true reality. How simple is the great way to salvation? All it says is that the world you see has nothing to do with reality. It is of your own making and it does not exist. All it says is that what was never true is not true now and will never be. The impossible has not occurred and can have no effects. And that is all. Can this be hard to learn by anyone who wants it to be true? You need simply let yourself be as you truly are and have always been. So thank you so much for being here, listening to this with me, joining me in this today. Thank you so much for doing that. And I hope to see you on the summer solstice. We're starting early for the ones from Pacific time at 6 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, so you're invited. Please come and join us. It would be lovely. Thank you so much. And see you soon.